Hi, this is Kevin Pike, and I'm here with episode number 107 of my Look What I Made podcast. And on this one, I'm going to play a track for you called Ain't Over Till It's Over. This is the last track from my EP called Pandemic Tunes, which is a compilation of jazz recordings I made during the pandemic. So basically for like 2 years, 2020 to 2022. And this particular song, I started working on in 2020. What happened is I was playing in a quartet before the pandemic hit, and then when it hit, we were talking about how could we keep playing some music. Maybe we could record some tracks and pass them around. And so I came up with this percussion background using a bunch of different percussion instruments that I had. I had some Brazilian percussion. I think I used a washboard on here, some maracas. To be honest with you, I can't even remember because that time in 2020 when everything hit, it's just kind of all a blur. But I put together this background track, and I sent it to the guitarist in our group, and I think it didn't really. It probably wasn't something that he was that into because he kind of sat on it and didn't do anything with it. So nothing happened with that background percussion part until 2022 when I decided, you know what, I need one more track for this kind of compilation that I'm doing about things I worked on during the pandemic that are pandemic related in a way. And so I got out that background percussion track and started adding a bunch of other instruments. So this is all me on this recording. Just playing different instruments. Now, first off, what I like about this background percussion part is that it changes up, but it's got this pulse, going throughout, and it kind of that represents time, because one of the weirdest things about the pandemic years is that it felt like time was standing still, and it also felt like it was going by really fast, because sometimes you'd feel like you're trapped inside and nothing is changing, and you're just waiting for things to change up and go back to normal. And then other times you'd be like, wow, 2 years have gone by. Everything's been different and weird this whole time. And here we are. So I like the idea that the percussion for this background has this pulse that kind of represents time, just keeps on going, things keep changing, and etc. So, but when I started thinking about what could I put over this, I had an idea for a couple saxophones. So the first thing I recorded were 2 alto sax tracks, where I did it kind of in segments, where I would record the alto sax, I'd play some alto sax lines, and then I'd add. Oh, sorry, my dog is commenting as well here, as you can hear in the back. But then I would add in another alto sax part, so that it had like a dual part with harmonies. And then so I came up with a melody doing that, and then I thought to myself, what else could I add that would be kind of different, that could give kind of the uneasy feeling that you have throughout the pandemic. So I had the idea that I wanted to use instruments that slide, that kind of scoop into notes, and it's not everything is hitting the note directly on. Everything is a little bit above or below, and it kind of slides into notes. So for that, I used my lap steel guitar, and then I also used my electric bass, but I played it in a manner where I was scooping into a lot of notes and just basically sliding on the strings a lot, so that it had that effect. And it's kind of it's a little bit of an uneasy effect, but I also, I think it fits pretty well where it drives the piece. So this piece has 2 alto saxes, it has lap steel guitar, bass, and then I also have bari sax on it. And one of the things that was kind of cool is that I recorded an alto sax solo and a bari sax solo just over the percussion parts before I had any background tracks other than the percussion. So there was no bass and no lap steel guitar. And I recorded these improvisations where it was like alto sax went, and then kind of call and response. The bari sax does something that's a little bit different, but is responding to what the alto did. Then the alto comes back in, and it goes back to the bari, and then eventually they're playing together. And when I played those parts, I did it in, I don't know, you could call this like progressive jazz or something, where I'm playing not necessarily in one key. It's kind of free jazz based, but it's shifting keys throughout the whole thing. And then what was really fun for me was to go back and then add in the bass, add in the lap steel guitar, and make it fit. And so it's I think it worked out pretty well. You probably would think that we were playing to what was going on in the background in terms of melodically and harmonically, but really it was the solos were recorded first, and then the interaction happened with the bass and the lap steel guitar interacting with the solo that was already recorded. So the last thing I want to mention is that I end this piece with kind of a hopeful Latin groove, and by hopeful I mean, it's about the pandemic. It's about all the stuff we've gone through, the ever-changing feeling of, is it over? Is it getting better? Is it getting worse? And I kind of wanted to end this on a positive note, because I do feel like we're coming out of it. So it kicks into a Latin groove at the end with the bari sax doubling up the bass line, and the sax is kind of just soloing over it. So this is Ain't Over Till It's Over. It's from Pandemic Tunes, which is an EP releasing November 30th, 2022. Like I said, a compilation of free jazz recordings and jazz compositions that I did during the pandemic, about the pandemic basically. And here it is. You've been listening to the Look What I Made podcast, featuring music by me, Kevin Pike. You can check out more of my music at my website, kpikemusic.com, or you can go to the podcast webpage at kpikemusic.com/podcast. You can also find my music on Spotify, YouTube, iTunes, Amazon.com, Google Music, and CD Baby.